Test? Oh, here we go. I think we can get started. Good afternoon, everyone. It is such a pleasure to welcome you all to this very special moment for the Optical Women's Association, our second Global Connection event here at MEDO. My name is Nancy Grease, and I have been a member of OWA since 2018, and I am currently chairing the International Expansion Initiatives. Just a quick bit of admin. After our panel discussion here this afternoon, we will be hosting a networking event with an aperitif generously sponsored by MEDO. We ask that you please register at the entrance and make sure that you have a pink band. This will make it easy for us to know that you have participated in this event. The event will take place through these curtains at the back, so we invite you all at the end of the panel to join us. The OWA was founded in 1997 as a non-profit organization with a simple yet very powerful mission to support, connect, and empower women across every facet of the optical industry. Today, nearly 3 decades later, we are proud to have over 1,000 members in the United States. And it is so exciting to see enormous energy and momentum growing internationally, where in 2025, we extended our membership into 15 countries, and this is just the beginning for us. The OWA is an organization fully run by volunteers, and each of us feels that our time is so well invested when we see the connections, inspiration, and opportunities that gatherings like this create. The women you see on this slide are our international expansion leaders. They are covering responsibilities for our organization, from marketing through to membership. I would like to take a moment to recognize our sponsors. Being here today would not be possible without that. Should any of you be interested in having more information about being involved either as a member or a sponsor, there are endless ways that you can assist. And we invite you to connect with us after at the networking session. By showing up here, engaging, and in sharing your energy, you are helping us build something bigger than an event. You are helping us shape a global community, a space where we can support one another and leave a lasting legacy for generations who will follow. And we are responsible for leading by example. This gathering is another important step forward in expanding the OWA's mission to globally connect visionary women leaders, innovators, and change makers who are shaping the future of our industry. I would like to extend a very warm thank you to MEDO, not only for graciously sponsoring this gathering, but also for their continued commitment in elevating voices and ideas that drive our industry forward. We are fortunate today to have with us an incredible panel of executive leaders who embody the spirit of leading with courage that we are here today to celebrate. With that, it's my honor to hand things over to Lorraine Burton, the president of MEDO and ANFAO, to open our program. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, and good afternoon and welcome to MEDO. It is a pleasure to open this meeting promoted by Optical Women Association, which returns after the great interest show in the last edition. Today, we are talking about leadership, but not leadership as a label or a title. We are talking about it is a daily practice made up of choices, listening, and often, very often, courage. In a complex context such as the one we are experiencing, leading means taking responsibility for providing direction, even when the path is not linear. The eyewear sector is a deeply international system, but also a very concrete one, made up of companies, professionals, territories, and people. It is a system that thrives on relationship and based on trust. In these is precisely very authentic becoming central, because trust is where there is a consistency between what we say and what we do. As Mido and Amfao, we believe that supporting more conscious, inclusive, and ethic leadership is not only a cultural value, but a real driver of growth for our sector. This is why we give space to initiatives like this one, which place experiences, personal journey, and real voices at the center. The story we will hear today are not models to be replicated, but opportunity for discussions. They tell us about the difficult decision, moment of transition, choices that require courage and vision. I would like to thank AWA for its commitment and its international work, and I would like to thank the panelists for their willingness to share the perspective and experience. I wish you an open and inspiring dialogue, and I'm now pleased to hand over to our moderator, Erminia Monzo. Erminia, thank you.
Yes, here we are. We have some nice background music that will accompany us, but the party will be afterwards, half an hour. Let's stay on this. So it's my pleasure today to actually moderate this conversation on leadership. So today we're going to talk about courage, authenticity, and why do we talk about courage? Okay. So we were saying, we are talking about courage, about authenticity, through moments that have shaped real lives, the life of our panelists that joined here today. So thank you for being here. And why we are talking about courage and authenticity? Because I think, the context we are living has dramatically changed recently. So trust has changed. People don't just follow titles, but they follow consistency. And complexity has grown, so no leader can control everything. And at that point, influence comes from transparency, from presence, from listening. And people are looking for meaning, so not just objectives and not just targets. And to me personally, when we talk about authenticity, we talk about coherence. We talk about being consistent between what you believe, what you decide, how you treat people when the pressure is high. And the courage is the willingness to pay the price for that consistency. So what I love about today's panel is that we will hear the stories from the voices of 3 different leaders coming from our industry that all have some common traits. We have vision, we have personal transformation, we have attitude. And my invitation to you today is really to listen for your moment, the conversation you have been avoiding, the decision you have been postponing, and the step you already know you are ready to take. So let's start, and let's start with a first round of warm-up questions. So let's start from you, Amanda. So as a leader of people, courage for you means?
For me it means, can you hear me? Oh, perfect, because I could hardly hear myself. So she's like, no, better.
Yes.
I need to eat the microphone. So courage for me means really pushing forward, even though the journey ahead of you could be quite long, could be quite difficult, or quite scary. So keep going, basically.
Leo?
Courage for me generally means finding the courage to say no against, a good price or a good.
And Rossana, what about you?
I mean, I would have said the consistency between what you think and what you do. For me, it's the most important thing, but it's been said already, so I'm going to go with my second choice, which is speak the truth, transparency, always being honest at the end of the day.
And we will hear these a lot during our conversation. And what's your non-negotiable value under pressure? Let's continue with you.
Yes, now you can hear me. It's respect, because I think that there's no pressure. It's not an excuse. Respect comes first, for people, of course, but also for the company and everything else.
I had to think about this one a lot during preparation for this, but for me, it's kind of win-win or no deal, which is a Stephen Covey principle, and I think it's very important that both sides of every deal win. And if it's not a win for me, I'm not doing it. If it's not a win for them, I don't think there's any point in doing it.
Interesting.
For me, it's really around almost looking at the respect. And I think Rosanna already mentioned it, like it's respect for people, so don't lose that and be true to yourself. Then keep leading almost and going forward and focusing on the clarity and focus on the mission ahead of it as well. So it's really respecting, even though the pressure can be high, you really want to keep going and making sure you're true to yourself and true to the people you care for as well. So your team, but also the people in front of you.
And what about one leadership belief you changed your mind about during your career? Amanda?
Yeah. So I always thought the leader needs to know everything, but actually it's around facilitating and empowering other people, so for them to shine and to empower and for them to have the pride in their work.
Leo?
Yeah, I guess I thought going into business 33 years ago that leaders were born, not made, and I wasn't really sure that I was in that category. I was very much a geek, a computer programmer. I run a software company now. That's what I do. But I don't think that's true anymore. You asked what's changed, because as you develop your skills in your profession, your chosen profession in mind, I guess as an entrepreneur, software entrepreneur, you grow into leadership. You just become a leader because you know so much about your area. Yes. That people are happy to follow that and go with you on it. So.
And Rossana, what about you?
And for me, I think, I had this idea, everybody had this idea that leaders had to be strong, vision, strong, a little bit distant maybe. And then slowly you realize, at least I realized that maybe today it's more important to be present, consistent, resilient, being there day by day, because I think that the disease of this century is distraction, and you need to be there to bring on the topics, to bring on the objectives. It's not only setting a vision for me.
Interesting. I think that already tells a lot about a number of things that we are going to explore, looking really at the stories of our guests today. So, Amanda, let's start from your story. So yours is a story of, I think, courageous evolution. You moved countries, you shifted from clinician to global leader, and you built confidence through learning, through mentoring. So let's start from the beginning. So your first experiences on the ground in the optical stores. So what was the key lesson that stayed with you?
Yeah, when I was in practice as the optometrist, as the clinician, I was very confident and very competent, I think, and really in the store. So people would come to me and I was like, I'm the leader here. So after a while in practice, I was like, I'm ready for the next step. I can be a store manager. And what happened then? All of a sudden, my confidence and my clinical skills were different to what I needed to do to be a store manager, to lead a team. And the team was quite large. I had 20 plus people in my team. So I was still driving to say, I'm the expert. I know how it all works. But I think, and I look around, I'm sure a lot of people here think about, a busy set today in a practice. What could that look like? Well, the practice I was in was quite busy. And on a Saturday, the phones are ringing, people are in. some staff couldn't make it on a Saturday, and I was like, oh, I need to firefight and jump in and really support the team. But actually, that created more stress and more nervousness, and it really made me think, like, how can I create a different environment and be more clear, be more calm? And I had to step back and look and say, how can I do this? And I started to delegate more and bring the calmness back into the practice, because it was a little bit crazy, to be fair. And we started to really be calm and think about my colleagues, my team, for them to function properly. How could I support them? Is delegate better, giving them the time to work with the customer. But also, you could see the customer getting more calm and more relaxed because they got the care from my team. And almost like the whole store started to calm down. And that was really to change, to be there and do everything, is trusting your team to do it and giving them the direction and the clarity to say, stay focused on the job at hand, and we get through it together. And it really made me think differently of the skills I needed to be a better leader and move away almost from being the expert on everything, trusting my team and empower them to do that as well. So it was a really a hard learning curve, but a lot of eye-opening moments around that. But I think that was the moment that really made me change how I saw leadership and what I needed to do differently as well to be successful.
So an example of stepping from doing to actually leading and motivating people. And you made two big moves, right? So first moving, leaving your country, and then later on stepping into the big corporate world. So can you tell us what triggered your international move first? And then what gave you also the push to actually step into the corporate world?
So from young, like a young girl, I always wanted to explore the world. I'm from a small village in the Netherlands, and I was like, what else is out there? And when I did my training as an optometrist, actually that gave me the opportunity to move abroad. I moved to the UK, I spoke the language, so I had two things that actually made it possible for me to move to another country, experience a different culture. And the confidence I had because I had the skill and I could the language, and then working in the practice actually gave me more of that skill. So it gave me that push to try it, and of course it was scary, but I was able to do it because of those two elements. When I think of the second move, when I moved actually from practice into corporate life, I did an MBA because I'm always looking for how can I develop myself, how can I be better, how can I, evolve myself as a person. So I did my MBA, and through that, I changed my perspective. I also started to do more networking, and I started to think, well, actually, all of the things I've done so far, I'm actually ready for the next step. And what could that be? And it's the corporate life. And through networking, I had the opportunity to join another manufacturer. And of course, it's scary, and well, the fear is there. But because I've done all the changes and preparing myself for that next step, I felt confident I could do it and build on the experience and, take the chance and take the risk. But giving the confidence in yourself, you can do it. You can build on that knowledge going forward as well. So both had an element of fear, but building yourself up to get that next step really helped me to take that step and overcome my fear to do that.
Yeah. And you were talking about how being the expert in the room doesn't necessarily represent the key for success, right? But then when you moved to the corporate world, which was the moment where you became aware of a need of doing a further step ahead, and what triggered that kind of awareness decision on that?
So I was quite confident moving into the corporate life. It's like I know it, and I knew it through theory, but not necessarily in practice. So I really had to do more maturity about myself, understanding the environment I'm in. So going from practice into corporate world is a very different environment. So I needed to understand that, understand what is important for the business, understanding the culture, understanding the politics a little bit, understanding how you can add value and how you can share it as well. So I really had to do a bit of growing up, maturing. I think I was getting older as well, so those things have helped. but also looking for mentors within the company, reading a lot. So I do a lot of podcasts, I read books. I think one stood out for me is around high performance by HBR. So they always do great articles. And it really helped me understand the corporate life and the corporate environment much better. And then also from moving from the expert, how could I then fit in this environment and not talking about myself, hey, I'm the expert, but actually letting other people talk for my work. And this is still being authentic to myself and not like, hey, me, but actually then showing this is the value I can bring, this is the team I bring with me, and the team is speaking for that work as well. So it was really important. And it helps you grow as well. So it's reading, then apply it in practice, that they'll help you grow as a professional.
And as yourself being part of the clinical life, having really an experience yourself as an optometrist, so you have been often in occasion where you were speaking to other optometrists, opticians, so you have done clinical and product education presentation across different cultures and different functions. So how that experience changed the way you lead today, especially from a communication standpoint?
So when I look at the beginning, when I did a lot of product and educational elements, it was to my peers, and I'm comfortable talking to my peers. But then I had to change, and through my initiatives, the project I was working on, the audience and the team members were not my peers. They become cross-functional, international. And what I've noticed is, although everybody speaks English, not everybody understands the same thing. So it was very important to start thinking, hey, how can I be very clear in my instruction, in my leadership? How can I be very clear to my teams for them to understand what I'm looking for and the actions they need to take? So I started to be clear in my communication, but also listening and looking at the team do they really understand what I'm asking for? Do they understand my instruction, but also what support do they need from me to be able to do the projects we're working on together? So that really, there was a few mistakes around that. Like, oh yeah, they all understand, and that didn't happen. So how can I make that better? And reading books like The Culture Map really helped to understand it's not only about language, it's also around culture and where you come from and how you address colleagues. In my case, it's very much a team that doesn't report into me. So how can I influence them better, understanding where they're from, and how can I be very clear in where we need to be? So I changed my leadership through that to be very clear with them and for them to be very open to me as well. So I share how I like to work and how I communicate, so they also understand my perspective as well. So yeah,
Thank
a
you.
lot of talking around this.
So I think there is a lot of self-development, self-awareness, and also maturity in being able to grow and take different steps in the personal and professional growth. So thank you for sharing that. So now, let's move now to courage when you are building the system yourself. So Leo, your story, you started basically studying in Dublin, engineering, then you moved to Japan, where you worked in R&D in Rico, and then you started putting your head on complex financial modeling in Credit Suisse, right? Then there was an MBA, and it was there where you actually started thinking of building a company, and you built what today is Okuko, a global software company serving both retailers and opticians. Now, take us back to the moment when you realized that your path wasn't going to be the traditional corporate one. So what triggered you to entrepreneurship? Share this with us. I think it's a nice way to start knowing your story better and your values, how they actually come into your journey.
Thank you. Well, I think there were two main factors. First of all, as a kid, I really was a computer geek. I didn't play football. I stayed home and programmed the computer from when I was
since the early
12
age,
years old.
12 years old.
Yeah.
With your parents saying, go out,
yeah.
do something.
I did go out a little bit, but I exaggerate a little bit, but I was pretty into computers. And around that time, an Irish company had global success listing on the NASDAQ, a company called Iona Technologies. And really from then, you know, software, I wanted to have a career in software, and I knew the possibility of setting up a company was, you know, something that could be done from Ireland, which is a very, very small country, and of course, it would have to have an international focus. And the other factor I've got to say was my father. My father worked for the government for the first 15 years of his career, but then he went out and set up his own company. So I had you know, from an early age, I'd seen the excitement, the highs and the lows of setting up a business, and I thought this might be a life for me. Having said that, I did, you know, I had a wonderful time working for Ricoh in Japan and Credit Suisse in Tokyo as well. So I'm not sure I really, you know, it was do or die become an entrepreneur, but an opportunity came up for me when I came back to Ireland in 1992, where a colleague of mine I'd gone to college with, we both happened to go to the Opticians College in Ireland, and he had an idea to try to set up a company, and he came to me as being the software guy in the class, and I wrote the software, and that started me on this path.
And actually, one of the most known anecdotes about yourself and from your early ages is that actually you slept on the floor of an ECP exam room trying to make your software work, right? So, which is, you know, the lesson that you take from those early ages and that still shape the way you lead today?
Well, I think that particular story really is about total commitment to making it work. You know, and you really have to get close to the ECP to be able to make software work well. It's not a question of, you know, send them an email and ask them what they want about something. You really have to see it, to live it, to sit beside them, to have dinner with them afterwards, and to sleep on the well, I slept on the floor of many optician practices over the years, as yes, various versions came out, and you know, the fine tuning, it takes a very long time. It involves working all night and this kind of thing. So, I mean, to abstract that into a general concept, I think that total commitment is something that's very important in entrepreneurship or in success, right, of leaders, and of non-leaders in your companies. Total commitment towards a single goal, and that tends to have guaranteed success for me.
Interesting. And, you know, as the company grew, also your role, in a way, had to change, right? So was there a turning point where you understood that scaling was not just about building the product, but also about building the leadership around you?
Yeah, I'd say it was more a gradual realization than a turning point. Okiko's growth, I mean, it's 33 years going now, so you know, I'm an overnight success in 33 years. It's not been that fast, so it's been gradual enough. But yeah, I mean, at about 60 people, it becomes very difficult to, well, you know, at various stages, it becomes very difficult to know everybody. So you really got to start developing more executive functions like human resources and that kind of thing. I found that 60 people was kind of a turning point, but I've been constantly developing our leadership team over the years, and currently I'm looking for, you know, we'll be adding 2 executive leadership team members over the next 18 months, I would hope as well. So,
and if I may jump in here just quickly, so was gender balance something you intentionally thought of since the beginning, or it's something that you built in a different way, knowing that your company nowadays is known for actually being very open and very intentional on this topic? Well,
I have to admit it wasn't really very intentional at all. I think it was really organic in Akiko's case. My wife, of course, or she became my wife, was very much a partner in the early stages of the business. Well, the first 20 years being the early stages. But it's always been for me, you hire the best person for the job, whether it's a man or a woman. In terms of any kind of, we don't have quota systems. I wouldn't dream of doing that. And I don't have particular preferences. I would generally like to have at least one woman or one man, at least one on a team. I think that to have some mix is important. But our executive leadership team, for about 15 years, it was 4 women and 3 men. And it oscillated between, larger numbers and smaller numbers of both sexes. Right now, I only have 1 woman. I lost 2 of them over the last 2 years, so we're a bit gender unbalanced, but we do have 1 woman on the management, on the executive leadership team of 7 now, and that number has varied from 4 to now 1. It's lowest really since foundation of the company.
And thinking of how your company has grown, so there has been a lot of partnerships, M&A. So can you share with us a high-stake decision where a non-negotiable value overruled an option that instead looked attractive from a financial standpoint?
Yeah, well, back to the courage. I mean, they're the ones to really say no, or to really, it goes back to saying no to deals that are, potentially very personally satisfying and, enriching as well. Very large sums of money. But it's got to fit with your values as well, that deal. One of, more recently, there were 2 kind of acquisition attempts on Akiko that I can recall that involved me having to think very deeply about, what I wanted for the company, for my customers, and for myself. Both I turned down. Both I'm glad I did. Both would have seen me lose control of the company, and so I made that decision a number of times that I wanted to keep that control and lead the company into the future. I think for the benefit of our employees and our customers, because I do think that the industry, the eye care industry, needs a software company that is independent of the agendas of the frame and lens and contact lens companies, the industrialists as we call them. That technology is a stream of endeavor that is important that all ECPs can access equally without having to go through their competitors. So.
Yeah, and that's how you build in then credibility on the market. So I would say it's a very important part of who you are and how you present yourself in front of your customers, your employees, and so on. So thank you for sharing your story. So let's now move to Rossana. We have here also a background in engineering, and I would say, a different kind of path in terms of career that passes by finance, then moving to commercial leadership in big corporations. So Rossana, let's start from today. So you have spent 9 years leading the Italian subsidiary in EssilorLuxottica and Professional Solution, and you have just moved into a global role as GM of Transition. So with a lot of your plate, personally and professionally, what made you say yes to this change, and what did you have to let go?
So first of all, it was a change that I looked for, because after 9 years, even if I was having so much fun and I loved my job, I thought it was time to go, so I reached out. And I was looking for something that, first of all, it had to be completely different from what I did, still in the same company, so not easy. And also, I wanted to have an impact. That was my key point, because when you manage the business, you have this obsession for bring in the number, you know, and it feels like it's your DNA, and you need something so concrete to move on, because otherwise you're going to lose something. You want to be concrete, you want to bring the net sales to the company, and so on and so forth. So I wanted something that was as strong as that. And so when the transitions opportunity came, it was really different. It's a global role, so I have a full picture, but still has a big business component, and I thought it was the right moment to do it. But I mean, my heart wasn't there yet, because I tend to fall in love with what I do. So I was so much having fun. I was loving what I was doing, loving the people I was working with. So it wasn't easy, but as I always did in my life, there's one moment where I say, no, now I have to go. Even if my heart is not there, I have to go. And I went, and in this case, it was also a change of country. You were talking about that before, but that was my first one, and I'm not so young. So, and with grown-up kids, yes, adolescent kids. So it was also another way of changing everything, let's say. And so I said, let's go.
Another interesting example of courage to make changes, big changes in personal and professional life, I would say. So we were saying, you know, you moved from finance to leading the business on an Italian market, and now leading it at global level. So did it feel that like suddenly you had to look at things with different lenses, with wider lenses? How did it change?
First of all, don't mention my past, because I've worked for 10 years before EssilorLuxottica in another industry. I was selling power tools. Power tools. So it's been already quite a change of perspective. Then I came into this market and I fell in love with it, and I think we all share this passion, because it's so it's a small market at the end of the day, so the relations are big, and it's so interesting. And yes, I started with finance, but I was doing business in my previous company. But the good in finance, I think, it's that you can see. You have the opportunity to learn a lot. I suggest it for young people to start with finance, because you can learn a lot from the company. And so the biggest change when I moved to business was not so much enlarging, because I had already seen all the parts of the company, but it's moving from watching to acting at the end of the day. That was the big thing. And also moving to lead a group of people who has to bring the result. That's another big thing. And as you said before, I mean, it's not me going to sell. It's people selling, but have to be motivated. They have to be a vision and have to bring the result. So that was the big step, and of course the most beautiful thing when you lead a commercial subsidiary. Now moving to an international role, yes, it's like seeing through a bigger lens, because really seeing all the world is completely different. But there is another dimension, because what I really noticed, and it's been 6 months, not even 6 months, 4 months, what I really notice is the dimension of time, because having a global role, when you lead a brand, you really see in the future. We are taking decisions that will impact the future of my brand in 5 years, 10 years from now. That was completely different in the subsidiary, where you're more focused on getting the numbers, short term, mid term, and this is another big change. And I have to say I'm super happy, because I mean, it's not easy to talk after Leo, because, you know, you're an entrepreneur. You founded your company. So when you talk about courage, this is courage. But I mean, when you work in a big company like we do, you are very lucky to be able to see a lot, to meet a lot of people, and that's the beauty of working in a multinational company. That's why, I mean, I've always done that. It's fantastic.
So being exposed to diversity from different perspectives.
Yes.
And, you know, talking about diversity, so as a women in leadership, I believe that the responsibility to create a fair and inclusive environment can feel even heavier in certain situations. So have there been moments in your professional life where you looked back and you thought, I didn't step in the way I should have done, or, you know, I didn't have the impact in that room that I wanted to have? So tell us a bit about this.
So it depends if you talk about my experience or stepping in for other people, so to help women.
And, you know, as responsible, the one being, you know, leading a team and being responsible, I think the question here is, first of all, towards others, but then also
Yes,
clearly
so
toward yourself as, the women in the room as
Exactly. That's the point. Because I've been the woman in the room, and we are talking to an association of women. So I think it's also important to bring this topic on the table. So I've been a woman growing for 10 years in a male world. It was 80% men, 20% women. The company where I worked before, so really a men world. And so after so many years, I can look back and I can see what helped me and what was an obstacle for me. And I would say that what helped me at the end of the day was to find somebody along my career, 3, 4 people that really believed in me and trusted me and gave me opportunities, sometimes even when I wasn't ready. And this is super important. You have to find a mentor in your life if you want to move on. So this is one point. And the obstacle instead, I think it came from me. And it was exactly this one. Because I think there were many times where I didn't step in, where I didn't talk, where I didn't think I had an opinion that was worth enough to be said. Many times it happens to me. So, taking these 2 points now that I feel I have a responsibility, being a woman, being a leader, I try to do exactly that. So I try to be there for the talents that I see in the company, and I try to understand when somebody is not stepping in. And I think this is a very small exercise that we can all do. When you are in a room, especially women, sometimes you can see them. Maybe they have something to say, but they don't raise their hand. Very, very rarely they're the first one to speak. So am I always good at solving this? No. But I do a very small exercise. So when I intercept such a situation, I always tend to say, do you want to say something? Tell me what you think about that. So it's a simple exercise, but I tell you, in every room there is somebody, usually a woman, that doesn't have the courage to be the first to talk. And so we need to do this. We need to understand and ask the question.
And I would say, without forgetting the value of listening and, taking the time to understand what you have in front of you before acting, which I think is another, important value that, especially as women, because this is a very feminine kind of approach in many cases. So we need to protect and to drive in the right direction.
That's what I said before about being a leader. Just giving a vision is not enough. You have to be there. You have to make people grow and being resilient, being methodic. I find it's a little bit of a superpower, an underestimated superpower, being there.
And, talking about being there, so, you're used to lead in high-pressure environments, and I think there is a very fine line between transparency that builds trust and transparency that can instead create anxiety in the teams that we manage. So how do you decide what to share and how to share your limits in a way that keeps the team confident?
So also here, I think it comes from my story, because I was listening to your story of your father working for the government and then deciding to be an entrepreneur, which is, I think it's great. I come from a different experience. I come from the south of Italy, where it was very normal to work for the same company for 30, 40 years. So that was my family. And so, courage to change or living in an environment where everything could change was not in my DNA. And so it took me a lot to understand that in this world, we have to be used to change, and we must look at it without fear, otherwise we're dead. We must embrace the change. And I think I did it slowly. I move quite confidently in a world and in a company that changes continuously. And so I think this is the point. So transparency. I think we underestimate how people can manage, again, the change. So I think we should always be transparent. I feel uncomfortable when I cannot be transparent with my team. Sometimes you cannot say everything. You have company reasons not to say everything. But whenever I can, I say it. And I think what is the subtle line between creating anxiety and creating instead buy-in from the people, it depends on your behavior. Because if you're even sharing some things that are changing, even some things you're not comfortable with, but if they see you calm, if they see you dealing with change like an expert, so don't worry, we've been there so many times. I think this is gonna solve that anxiety problem. And I think in my team, my old team, after 9 years, it was really a gym of change. And after so much time, I was so comfortable in telling the truth always, because I knew that they knew we had survived to everything in the past 9 years. They were exercised to change. So I think it's important also for that. You create the habit of managing change in the people. You have to do that. You have to be transparent, always.
Loved your insights. Thank you very much, Rossana. So now let's do a final reflection together on courage. And when Napoleon is famously credited with saying that courage is the one of 3 o'clock in the morning when you're alone with yourself, no audience, no reassurance, only doubts, and no one actually to share these doubts with. So can you take us to a real 3 a.m. moment in your journey? So what choice was in front of you, and how did you deal with it the next morning? Maybe Amanda, we start from you.
So when I moved in my leadership roles, I noticed I knew exactly what I wanted to be as a leader. I had this vision for me. But I felt quite frustrated because I was doing all my reading, getting the knowledge. So I knew what to do, but not how to do it. And that was a really frustration. But when I understood, okay, this is the gap I have, I need to understand how to do it, I had a plan, and I could make a plan. So that was my 3 o'clock, hey, this is what I need to do. And I worked with my team, I worked with my manager at the time, but also finding the right people, getting a mentor to close that gap. And actually that made me a better leader, because then it's not only what I need to do, but how to do it, how to speak to my senior management, to really showcase everything. So that was the moment, that frustration into an action, that really changed my leadership, and it opened up the opportunities that have come since as well.
Thank you. What about you, Rossana? So I think I had to think about the toughest decision I had to make in my working life, and it was in my previous company, where I was just appointed to manage the network of shops, and as soon as I got there, we had to close, I would say 30-40% of them. It was the 2008-2009 crisis in the building and construction companies, and so I was faced as a junior leader of many people for the first time with something that I really didn't want to manage. I didn't embrace that. I wanted to work in a big company, not to leave people at home, And so this moment came, and I was really thinking, is this what if this is what I have to do, I don't know if I want to do it. It was one of those moments. And then the 3 a.m. moment was after I spoke with my general manager there, who told me, I know this is tough, but you're doing it at the end of the day for the sustainability of the company, so we have to do it. And you do it for the people anyway. And so what I thought was, I want to be there because I want to do it in the best way. Because there's also ways and ways to do also bad things, let's say. And at the end of the day, we were able to move people to other jobs. We were able to reduce that number. We were able to manage things in a better way and make it anyway sustainable. And at the end of the day, my point was, I want to be there because I want to do it better, in a better way than what would be without me, let's say. And that was one of those moments, let's say.
Thank you. And to you, Leo, I think you also found yourself in similar moments managing your direct company. But tell us about your 3 a.m. moment.
Yeah, well, I've had many of them, including trying to find the thermostat in the ECP's exam room at 3 o'clock in the morning because it was freezing at times. But probably the one that comes to mind most was back in 2001-2. Just to give you a bit of background, I think that many companies experience a shock in a year, we experienced a shock in 2001, but we experienced 3 shocks, and many companies can get through 1 shock, fewer through 2 shocks, but 3 shocks just really floored me. they were related to, like the first one was related to the dot-com bust in 2001. Our sales crashed by 90%, and very quickly we had a new plan. We were up and running again, and then in very early 2002, our market got deregulated. A secondary market we were in, the pharmacy market, which caused another sales crash of the replacement sales. And then third, and I remember the date because it was 2 days after the birth of my first child, Cathal, March 18th, 2002, our largest distributor declared themselves unable to pay us. So we had a bill that was probably 25% of our entire revenues that was not going to come through. So obviously I'm wondering what to do and trying not to bother my wife with the problem at the time. That particular time, she was on maternity leave. So my board helped me my auditors actually helped me to meet a famous liquidator, the main guy in Ireland who does the liquidations, and we went in and brought him all the numbers and explained the situation, and he asked me, he said, Leo, you can, it looks like you have a good business here that's in quite a bit of trouble. You really have two choices. Do you really want, it's an honorable thing to do, to put this business to sleep if you've had enough, or do you want to make a go of this business and go for it? And so yeah, I slept on it that night, but made the decision the following morning that of course I would go for it. I took that as permission, in the legal sense, to be able to do so, and I've never looked back since. The company's probably 50 times the size it is that now that it was then, and yeah, but there's a lot of late nights in leadership, I think.
Absolutely, and I think we have a lot of interesting insights and takeaways from this conversation. So thank you for sharing your stories, and I would like really to underline how leadership and how authenticity in leadership isn't just a personality trait, but it's really a practice that comes from daily presence, from courage. And here we have heard courage in different shapes. So courage as self-development, courage as evolution, as building, as responsibility. So thank you once again for being with us today. And now I think it's the moment to enjoy the music. That we have been hearing during this hour together. So thank you. Stay with us for continuing the conversation with our guests and among ourselves. We have a little cocktail sponsored by Mido. So join us, and we will have another half an hour or so together to share ideas and continue chatting on these topics. So thank you once again.
Thank you.